sorted?
No, I
Oh,
think everyone
no,
started
yeah.
looking at the maps.
Okay.
Okay, are we ready? Uh-huh. Okay, I will call the meeting to order. So, first item of business is approval of the agenda. Has everyone had a chance to go over it?
I just want to check, I don't even have my glasses on yet, but is the Maggie Cummings Fund on the agenda?
On this agenda?
Yeah,
No.
then can we add it, please?
So I have a Councillor and Islands Trust update. Do you want to include in that, or would you like a separate agenda?
This is it's a separate one,
Okay,
it's kind of,
5.2 then?
5.2? Yes, because it is from the minutes from last meeting. Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then I've got from the chair supporting material for 5.1.
Yes.
And an update from Mr. Osborne, item 6.5. Trail Society update.
Sure.
And I would like to add 7.3, Seymour Bay property lines.
The green pen.
Oh, here's a nice, beautiful one. Oh, these cartoon people.
Is that it? Okay, can I have someone move the recommendation to approve the agenda and light items? Jeremy? Second. Christine? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Adoption of the minutes. Do we need a minute to go over the minutes?
I suppose some of the action items were a little funny. I think maybe they were glasses of gray. I know. Now you're like, we're now. I don't know if it's in. Oh, in action, what, in action?
Yeah, it's not a super big deal, but the part, so number 2 is find out if Parks Department has a budget for another toilet. I think I was supposed to find out what budget the current toilet came from.
Oh,
And then another one was engage with Cape Coral Neighborhood Association re-plant selection. I think I was just gonna engage with them later on for planting, not for plant selection. And then maybe I was gonna engage with you guys about plant selection, but
okay.
not,
Yeah, I think the toilet budget was to find out which budget it could fall under, the one that was to be in the cove, and whether there was budget for
oh.
something like that, right?
I found those some things, so.
Yeah. But that's about it.
Okay.
I think the discussion, yeah, like you said, like if he was gonna go into ferry lineup, like what budget did that come out of?
The one that was already purchased.
Yeah.
I thought,
Yeah.
was what I was
Yeah.
looking for.
So. Any other problems with the minutes? You want a couple more minutes to go over it?
Just the, I'm on page 6 of 15, under my item there, at the bottom, under the bullet points, it says it was advised that the Community Foundation liked the idea of contributing to the Cross Island Pathway Fund. That should be trans-island multi-use pathway. Because they always get mixed up and it's been confusing already, so that would help.
That's the roadside one?
Yep.
They used to call that TIP, Trans Island Pathway. It's
Yes.
changed now?
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's the trans-island multi-use pathway.
No wonder I'm confused.
Better.
Because there's a trans-island trail as well.
There's a
The
trans-island trail.
now, the multi-use
One's a big deal.
pathway.
And
one in the back.
and sometimes called the
Yeah.
cross-island trail, so it's confusing, so I just thought if we make it clear that it's a trans-island multi-use pathway,
Yeah.
then everybody knows from one direction or another, that's the one side of the road.
A little bit of both.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Well, anybody else got something to say about what it is?
We'll find something, give us long enough.
I move adoption of the minutes
As
I'll
amended.
second it.
As amended.
as amended.
Yeah, I'll second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Awesome. Public comment? There is nobody here. So, action items. We need the action items March 20th. So, print and distribute the latest version of Carol's map to community members. Awesome.
Is this the map we've got in front of us?
That is
Yeah,
the map.
that's it,
And-
that's done. I think we had a look at it last time. Planning department also said they appreciate it. They said it was a good reference and that they'll use it, so.
I have one question.
Yes.
What is head net prop?
It's pedestrian network proposed.
Thank you.
It's from,
From the transportation plan?
Yes.
I just didn't want to assume without asking.
Yeah. Sorry, I should have probably changed that on.
It's okay.
And I'll just reiterate again, like, that's not for public consumption.
So if everybody writes on it, confidential.
Good idea.
That's
Right.
a good idea.
Just write on it, and then it'll jog your mind 2 years from now when you uncover it.
Go, hey, wow, cool.
So important.
It's just because, for anybody watching on the video, it's just because we don't want to put out things that might be proposed to cross any public land or that might link up through some area that people would be surprised at or anything. This is just a,
Mind jazz.
yeah,
Nice.
thank you.
Okay, let's talk about toilets.
Okay.
Again.
Okay, so I spoke with Raj, and the toilet that was purchased last year that didn't end up getting installed was purchased from the Parks Reserve Funds.
Mhm.
So, yes, it should go in a park. And,
Hello,
It's okay.
hi Terry.
Hi, Terry.
and so Bob said, he's watched the meeting, he said he's cool with, Headwaters, not Headwaters, Quarry Park. He's not sure that, like he said, we can just go out there, mark the spot with a big X, and he'll dig a hole. So he's ready. But it is missing some pieces. So we don't actually have like the, bottom, you know, the hole.
The cement part.
The cement part.
That
They-
has to be
The
poured.
vault, thank you. He did order the door. He had to take some pieces to fix another toilet. So he's ordered the replacement pieces, I believe, but we just don't have the vault. And
And the lid, so you don't
we
have,
have to,
you don't have the vault, but then there's a concrete lid that it
Okay.
sits on. So
Yeah.
all the concrete, we don't have that. Okay.
so, there's still money in the budget for that stuff. I don't know if there's necessarily gonna be enough money, though, if we need to blast. And that is the concern with the spot that we talked about. And I also don't know how we can check. So he said he's happy to go dig a hole, but he doesn't wanna order the vault until we dig a hole.
Yeah.
And we don't wanna obviously build up, because then it's not handicap accessible or anything anymore,
Swelling?
so.
I have some old files from Quarry Park when it was set up, so there would have been, you may be able to find them too, in the municipal files, because there were all kinds of biophysical assessments and things done before, because it was a whole big rezoning, and because obviously the park needed to be assessed and everything. So some of those files may include some of that information, and or at least give you an indication. So if you can't find anything, let me know, because I have a big fat file,
Okay.
and I'll bring it in, we can go through it. I don't know if I've got that kind of details though, because I was more concerned with the vegetation and that kind of side of it.
Yeah.
But I do know that the reason for the planning of where the actual boundary would go of the park was higher on that side, and that was part of the thinking back then. So with that information that we had back then, it wasn't assumed that we would need to blast. So anyway, if you check your files, I'll check mine. How about that?
Sure, that sounds
Do
good.
you,
The other idea too is maybe if the rock starts higher up on that side, we could put it where the parking is currently and just make more parking on the other side, right?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, like it doesn't have to be right.
Yeah.
as long as the amount of parking isn't
Yeah, that's right.
made smaller,
How would you fit in?
which is what our motion was last time, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To make it smaller?
No, to make it bigger,
To
we
make
were
bigger.
saying,
Do you have room to do that?
I believe
This is,
so.
part of the discussion was, at the last meeting, I think you weren't there,
Yeah, no, I
was
upset.
that the actual, the park is wider than it looks at the entrance there, and there's more room as you're driving. You turn and you're driving into the Quarry Park
Right,
parking lot, there's more room on the left-hand side.
okay.
And I would say there's also more room as you go further, but then it gets more rocky. So possibly there's room there, so let's explore it. And I can at least give you dates so that you can go into the actual meeting minutes and things like that, if they exist from back then.
Okay.
Because I think there would have been biophysicals and things done.
That's
And
the
anyway,
resolution there.
sorry?
That's the recommendation there.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, whereas limited parking in Quarry Park, inadequate for demand at certain times of the year, safety, So we recommended a permanent big toilet be installed at Quarry Park. And that the feasibility of expanding parking area be. You got that. Anyway,
So what are the next steps?
So why don't you guys, well, the three of us are saying that, you guys do your thing and figure it out, and then I'll organize a walkabout.
that would be great.
Yeah.
So an action item would be that Carla and Sue Ellen will compare files. Something like that.
Swap
Okay.
information.
Yeah.
And you can put an action in about, organize a doodle poll, because I love doodle
Yeah.
polls. Awesome, sweet.
Great.
Distribute the doodle poll for the site visit to Miller's Beach.
That part's done.
That
No.
part's done.
Yes, very good. Thank you, Phil.
So, came up with two results, basically May 26th, which is a Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m., and a Tuesday, May 28th, 6 to 8 p.m. based on tides. So those are kind of optimized around tides and daylight for that time frame. And yeah, those were the ones that came up with the most.
So say those dates again.
Sunday, May 26th, 4 to 6 p.m. Tuesday, May 28th, 6 to 8 p.m. And then I think the only person that couldn't go on the Sunday was Claudia, and the only person that couldn't go on the Tuesday was me. So it's kind of,
I'm actually gonna be away now on that Sunday.
On that Sunday, or both days?
Just the Sunday.
Just the Sunday.
I might be back in time if it's 4. I could maybe make it
The
back.
Tuesday one is at 6. You can make that?
Yeah, I might even be back on Sunday. I'm just
Oh,
I'm
okay.
away on the weekend, so
Oh, okay. I kind of like you to be there for that.
yeah.
So-
If everyone can only make the Sunday, I can.
yeah, I can't do this. I can't do the Tuesday, but I can do the Sunday. But Claudia can't do Sunday. So it's, you're gonna miss somebody one way or
Yeah.
the other. And Christine, did you Which date did you?
I think I said I could come.
On either one.
It seems so far in the future. Yeah, sure, I can come.
Okay, so you're good.
I know what you're saying.
Well, okay,
So,
so,
so it's, I guess, why don't you make the executive
I was
decision?
gonna say,
Martin?
no offense, Phil, why don't we say Tuesday?
Because we need Carla, we need a
I
staff
would-
person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have Carla, make sure the Carla.
What's the date again?
But the
28th.
28th of May.
And it
Sorry,
starts
Phil.
at what time?
6.
And you're the one who organized the poll in it?
Maybe he did that. I don't know if that's.
No, it's the, those were the only dates that, seemed-
Yeah,
so unless we want to take it like into June or July.
yeah, no, I don't.
And I've been emailing with the ladies who originally the emails that went around, and they'll probably join us for that.
Good.
For that
I
one.
might try and sneak out, if I can sneak out there on my own on the Sunday or something like that, just so I
Okay.
can have a look, because
It would be,
it's a beach issue and I can.
yeah, I was gonna, I hate to not
So
have you.
I'll try to get out there
Yeah,
and see what.
What's the meeting place?
I don't think we have a actual meet at the Yellow Gate or something like that yet. I think we're just
No.
getting.
No, and there's not gonna be parking there, so, I mean, we could park a couple of cars along Ecclestone, there's some space there. We might have to meet up somewhere and carpool.
But that, we've got time to organize that.
Yeah, yeah.
So stand by for that info.
Okay. You can put an action item for me, again, to work out carpooling details for a while.
It was 6 PM, is that right?
Yep.
I think low tides somewhere in there, between 6 and 8.
Great.
I don't think it has a name, that beach. Does it have a name?
We just call it.
Do we call it?
the road
Yeah.
that it ends.
So yeah, we can call it Ecclestone Beach. Awesome.
Wouldn't be the end.
Sweet. And thank you for doing that, Phil.
No worries. So,
Okay, number 4, email beach access inventory to Carla. Councillor Cass?
Did I do that? No! Shoot, please leave that on.
We don't need it
Ongoing,
until.
we just say ongoing.
Yeah. We need it
Okay.
Remind me.
before May 28th,
Yes.
right? Yeah, you got lots of time.
Okay.
Shoot.
Did I do that? Report back on Mount Gardner's Connected Trail Collaborative Project next week.
Okay.
We have your update there. It's included in your update on item.
Well, I could just, so we, Swellen and I figured out the money situation. We have the money.
There are 2 hiking trail funds, hikers trail funds.
So
Thank you, Carla.
that's a
We
good
figured
thing.
it out together.
And then, what else has happened? So, and then also, Bowen, not Trail Society, what's the other one?
Trail Riders?
Trail
Bits.
Riders?
No, not Bits.
Bits.
Trail Riders, thank you. So, because they're the coalition, they contacted me about the trail because they heard about it, and I hadn't involved them before, because at the time when I started planning it, they weren't really, the coalition wasn't formed yet, so, and Pahora as well, right? So, anyways, and then I heard Dan Cowan was also maybe had an issue with it. So since then, I've spoke to both of those stakeholder groups, and they're on board.
Very good.
So I think everything is a go. We're just waiting for the province, really.
Waiting for
The province.
Oh,
We need
okay.
the approval from the province, and I don't really want to do any more work on it until we get that. So they all seem very positive about it, and I think at the Trail Riders meeting, Tom Blackbird was there, who's the province guy who would give the approval, and he said that it should all be going through. It's just takes some time, I guess, to go through. Groups
Right.
people.
Great.
yeah, Bits had sent a letter of support, or email of support to Tom as well, so. he's-
Yeah.
he's on it.
Alicia, CCD, so that's great.
And Bahora, you talked to them too?
No, I haven't. Is that, should I?
I was going to be very rude and say I wouldn't bother, but
Well, because Christine is here at the meetings, I think,
I'm not actually a member of the board at the moment.
Oh, no. Yeah, I can give them a call.
I think that would be
Yeah,
really
you
useful.
should give them a heads up.
Yeah.
Katrina Smith, I think, is probably
Okay. Engage with K-Till Neighborhood Association, I think we talked about that.
Thank you, Carla.
Claudia is not here, so it's too bad because I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Senate First Nations naming notes to the manager of recreation and community services to be considered in the drafting of the BIM naming policy. Councillor passed.
Which item are we on here?
Number 8.
Number 8.
Still in the action items.
Oh, I'm looking down,
Page
here I
8.
am writing down in the, okay,
Page 8.
thank you. Sorry. I'm in the main part of the agenda, going, man, we're moving through this quickly. Okay. Oh, okay. I found out more about that old growth forest map that I brought, and none of us had seen it before.
Number 8, so the First Nations naming notes to.
Oh, okay, yes, on, at council, we included the council just passed, we included a little bit of First Nations info, and I just wanted to report to this group. I thought I did this
You
already.
did, I think it's about, did you
It's just
talk
supposed
to
to
the
use-
recreation, to Sean, basically, did you share that information with the person who was drafting the policy?
Yes, I sent it to Shauna.
Done.
Thank you. Yes, in fact, it was a huge, big, long email. Okay. I did.
Number 9.
Thank you. Okay, this refers to mostly to the old growth forest map that I brought the last time. It took some hunting to find out what that was. This was a map that I showed around. It's a map of Bowen and Gambier, and they both had these big brown blotches on them. And I was going, old growth forest areas, what are these? Old growth protection areas, I think they're called. And in fact, I can find out here. But anyway, whatever they were called, these were new. They had been added in 2012 to the Bowen, to Crown Lands on Bowen. And then they had been changed again in 2016. And I asked Kate Emmings at Islands Trust Conservancy, how can protected areas move around? What do you mean they moved? And she said, apparently I don't have an internet connection. Apparently, these are not old growth protection areas that actually have old growth in them. They are areas that are proposed to eventually have old growth in them after a logging company has cut the existing old growth. So there's new old growth.
Potential.
Potential
Sounds
old
like
growth.
a bit of an oxymoron.
Future.
I don't think we'll be allowed to see it.
Are these areas that are protected from logging now, or will be protected from logging after they've logged it?
They're protected from logging now.
Okay.
But I haven't done all the map overlays and everything to see what is exactly in them. Except I know from passing it around the table here that Jeremy and the others I showed it to went, I've never seen those before, and that's not where the old growth, the big old growth is. And so that's what I was confused about, so I went and hunted. It took me a while to get this information. I spoke to the some of the staff at the Islands Trust Conservancy, and they were the ones who had hunted down the information that these were new in 2012 and then they'd been adjusted in 2016. Defend Island Forests, the group, the organization on Bowen Island, the community group, is meeting tonight. So I've passed all that info on to them, and we'll see if they do the overlays and that kind of stuff, what they come back with.
Okay.
But I just want to clarify what that was. I will say too that the new regional conservation plan, which I may have here. No, I don't. It's out on my desk. It has, it shows you where on Bowen the old, what we might call old growth, what they call old forest, which is trees over 250 years old, are, and where mature forest, which is trees over 100 years old, are, And so we have all these maps. The question is, how can we layer them up? And I may ask, through Bowen Council, I may ask the Islands Trust Fund to do some of that mapping. The Islands Trust Conservancy to do some of that mapping for us, with layering up the different levels, so that we can see where is the forest we've got, and that kind of thing.
That's
When-
really important for,
When it was adjusted, was it made bigger, larger, moved? Using
I can't tell because I can't see the 2012 ones. But it was just before BC Timber Sales, the forestry company, came to talk to Bonnie, and Bonnie invited me, and they came to tell us they were gonna log on Bowen. So it was adjusted
Just
with
before
this
that logging. Yeah.
proposal, yeah.
What kind of status do they have, I mean, as protected areas there? How do they have status? Are they just,
The timber companies can change them. It has to do with their forest sustainability plan that
so
they
they
have
have
to
to
file.
designate certain areas they're setting aside
Yeah.
out of that, just like any other.
Mhm.
So this is the forest company who is saying, we're gonna protect these areas. They're making.
That's
Yeah.
their set aside.
That's their set aside, they do that in their, I think it's called a forest sustainability plan,
Yeah.
and that they have to file and have it, I never know, but I think it has to be approved by the forestry ministry, forests. And I'm not exactly sure about that, but let me see if I can get into my email here, because I just sent some of this, and old growth management areas is what they're called. These are logging areas companies are required to set aside to become old growth in the future. First designated 2012, changed in 2016, and there's a link here, and here's the map. So what I'll do is I'll forward you all of these, and there's a link there too that says what are the old growth management areas and that kind of thing.
does it give criterion for why they pick these areas to allow to become old? Well, whereas the old ones that are old, they're cutting? I mean, it seems the most bizarre rationale.
Well, it sounds to me like they can't cut the trees in one area, so they.
really difficult to get.
Or the ones that.
We need to get to the bottom of the rationale, and hopefully the other group that's meeting tonight.
Well, the other group is doing some of that, and so I will, what I'll do is, if I just forward this to Parks, Trails, Greenways,
Yes.
and then it'll go to everybody here? You too, Carla, right?
Yeah, that'd be great. This is, I believe, it's a provincial data catalog, so that means that you can show it in IMAP.
Mhm.
So can you not, or you can't get the other layers to show up in IMAP?
I don't know how to
Is that
use
the-
IMAP, maybe you
Okay.
can. And some of this may be in Map IT, Map it, as well. And so my report, basically on this action item, is that I tracked down at least what these are and found out some information about them. So I will bring them to the next meeting, if you don't mind, because
But you're gonna share the link to those maps with us?
yeah, that would be easier, wouldn't it, rather than bring them in hard copy? Okay, I'm gonna send them by email.
Awesome,
Okay.
that's perfect.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, number 10, right, in terms of reference, I've got
Yeah.
an agenda item to talk about that, but I've done it.
Okay.
Check that out. Okay. And let's talk about that right now.
Yeah.
5.1, so I handed around a sheet with an amendment to our terms of reference. I had a meeting with Kathy Lamont last week. She was very supportive of this. She did kind of say, small steps, let's just do one thing at a time. One of the big things that she made clear that it was important is we have to do this kind of through supporting policy, like supporting the park plan policy and invasive, the Parks Environment Management Plan, which is a recommendation in the parks plan, So what we're going to do, the first step is the mapping of invasive species on public lands. That is in support of the parks, the eventual creation of a parks environment management plan. It's gonna be a long-term thing, it's way down the road, but this is something we can start on. At this point, I don't think we really need a subcommittee for this. This is something that we can just, whenever we want to, just go out. I mean, the mapping that we have in mind is through the Report a Weed app that you can get on your phone. So we can just go out and populate this map. It's just public. Anyone can do it. So I'm going to write a report to council because council, of course, has to approve amendments to our terms of reference. And I will have that ready for the next meeting for everyone to go over. If everyone's supportive of it, then we'll forward it on to council and see what they say.
The recommendations also include things like eradication or dealing with those particular recommendations regarding which species.
So eventually, that's what's going to happen. But again, that's what,
But that'd be phase 2.
or phase
three.
3, or don't know yet.
Yeah.
That's why it's kind of a long-term thing. Ultimately, you know, we as an advisory committee can support the creation of policy, but it's up to staff and council to create that policy. So hopefully we can be involved in that process.
We can recommend, I guess.
Pardon me?
I guess we can recommend to council though that they take steps.
Right, and I think kind of by doing this, well, yeah, it's the larger terms of references advise and make recommendations to council for the park plan regarding invasive species, plant species on public lands. So, and this is the phase 1. So.
Okay.
Is there any link to who are those weed warrior leaders? What's that group that go out and?
The weed warriors.
Weed warriors, and they work in Crippen. So, and eventually, that's something I'd like to see is collaboration with other groups and getting the members of the public involved. Like what I would like, at this point, I mean, we don't really need council to approve us going out and using the reporter we have, because it's a public thing. We can just do that anyway. What I would like, I would like to have the committee be able to say, I'm going to go out as a committee and report back to the committee, hey, this is where the additions that I've made to the reporter weed app, and make it a little more formal. And invite members of the public to come with me. Like, I'll go out, I have some friends who want to do this. Well, let's go out, I'll show you the app, I'll show you what gorse is. This is gorse. Once you know you can identify it, put it on the map. And anyone can do it. So that's where that's at right now.
But this is just vegetation, it's not,
It's just vegetation, it's just plant species.
Not skunks.
Too bad, eh?
tourists.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good one. Good one. So yeah. So does anyone have any comments or questions about the amendment in terms of reference?
Just a comment was because of the skunks thing, I think council wanted us to really amp up the stuff on the website for invasive species, so I'm happy to take whatever you want to give me
Right.
in terms of educational materials, and I like that bullet point.
Awesome.
And if you wanted us to include something about the reporter weed app, and then, you know, you guys were gonna do, I don't know, if you're gonna go out all together and show people how to identify.
Right, yeah, and have it
Like put
is.
that on the website or
Perfect.
promote that,
Awesome.
so that'd be great.
So once we get council's approval, we'll get rolling on it. Awesome. So that's where I'm at. So hopefully next meeting I will have a report ready for you guys.
So this is the term of reference, so under a separate bullet under 2.2, so basically down at the bottom. Maybe we can touch base offline on if we want this.
I think it's
to look like.
just after the bullet assist staff and above prepare work, an annual work plan. That would be where it would go. Would be, right? Yeah.
And including the phase, okay.
Yes.
I had a staff member yesterday during our weekly group meeting give a health and safety share about working on Bowen and encountering toxic weeds in their work that he wasn't aware of. And the person he was working with was an ecologist, and she said, don't go near that stuff because it'll give you a rash.
Yeah, and that's part of the education.
It was a good health and safety share.
Yeah.
Bowen, I said, yeah, that stuff's everywhere.
Yeah.
It was spurge laurel. I think,
It's spurge laurel, yeah.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
is not that bad, but it's.
Which
And
one?
you know what?
Spurge laurel. It's
Yeah,
that,
just the salad.
I
It's all
know what it
Daphne,
is.
yeah.
Is it
It's
false
Daphne
Daphne?
laurel.
Yeah, is it toxic?
yeah, don't get that white stuff on your hands.
The sap
Every-
and berries.
Every part of the plant is toxic.
Yeah. Do not eat it.
Poisonous too, don't eat it.
Don't eat
No,
the berries are
nobody's
the real,
Yeah,
yeah,
don't let, and little kids eat it.
yeah.
Just
But
berries.
you know what, I've never had a problem with it. I pull it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you can pull it
I
out,
pulled
need
it out
to
with bare
whole,
hands.
but I think if it breaks and things, you start getting it,
If you get it on your hands, if
The
it's,
white stuff.
some people, if you get it in your eyes, if you're snapping it,
Yeah. Okay.
right?
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Okay, 5.2, Maggie Cummings. Simone?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I'm sorry Claudia isn't here. I just wanted to bring the group up to date that I had been following up about the questions we'd had about potential projects and for the Maggie Cummings Fund. So here we are with still, now we've got the plan finally in our hands, that's great. What I still don't have is the budget that may go along with this. If there's any, do you know, Carla, is there a budget for activities this year?
The parks plan?
Yeah.
Yes, it's, in one of the appendix.
Ah,
There's the cost, are the cost estimates, there,
implementation.
these? Implementation table? Okay, page 67?
some of that is there, and then there's also a longer version of that.
Okay. I didn't know where to look for this. Okay, this is helpful. It doesn't, okay, so in the short-term ones, see, one of the things we thought about was, or what we'd suggested at the last meeting was that I had checked in with this group about whether the trans-island multi-use pathway would be a good thing for the Maggie Cummings funds to go towards. But considering that they're thinking $10,000 over, for 3 years at least, the scale of the multi-use pathway is enormous. Like, it's 180,000 in 2019 is the funding that they're going for. So Emma or the planning staff will be applying to different big community active transportation funds and things. And so I was thinking, well, that's okay, but will that be a really significant donation for the foundation? $10,000 into $180,000. And then thinking maybe we should have another project as a backup. And then I had also consulted with, I'll just say the legacy advisors, the two people named in Maggie's will. I just don't want to name names because it's an open public meeting. And I've got feedback from one of them suggesting, oops, sorry. I had it here. And he's suggesting that the Maggie Cummings Legacy Funds be used for the off-road components of the multi-use pathway, which would be a better fit. So I don't know if, so anyway, I was thinking of suggesting that as well, which I'll have to talk to Emma or one of the planners, our transportation planner about. And also maybe something that was more greenway and trails and parks aligned from this list. So looking at pages 67 and on, Have you got one? Oh, there you go. Oh, I gave her one of those, yeah. Yes, Terry, you picked, yes, isn't that great? Write your name on it on the front, everybody, or else you'll lose it, in my experience. I wondered if there was, looking at the recommendations, ones that had a short timeline, and a dollar figure beside them that might be at least $10,000. Is there something that jumps out to anybody that might be a good idea? Like I'm looking at new park trail and beach signage. I'm on page 68. Or interpretive head signage.
A lot of that's being worked on, you know, I've seen a lot of signs.
Yeah.
Signs. I don't know if everything's done,
Yeah.
That's kind of, it's not every single thing, but I don't think there's too much left, and.
Okay.
And I think we'll probably finish it. I mean, but interpretive signage, that's not something we've been working on.
Yeah.
I'm just doing the regular ones, like the public beach access this way, trail this way.
Yeah, okay. And, well, that's just me glancing at it quickly now because I haven't looked through, I didn't realize these numbers were back in here actually.
Where's the financing coming from for the trail from Killarney Lake up to the ski trail?
It was 12.3, 21.3. I was looking at that one as well.
We have, it was money set aside from a subdivision.
Yeah, it's
John.
from a rezoning, it's John Reed.
Because that would be relevant as a target for the Maggie County plan.
I think it's already
I
funded.
think it's already
Oh,
covered.
it's totally
Yeah,
covered, oh,
yeah.
right.
If that's the case, if this one's going to go to the plans. But if it can't, then it would be a good back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think any of those, potentially any of those trail options.
Yeah, they look like the,
Right sort of magnitude, right?
yeah. Which page are you looking at? You're on.
69.
Yeah.
I'll make a plug for 3.1.2 and .3. Because they're not, the overall budget's not very high. They're key, improve key beaches and coastal access points and improve coastal viewpoints.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what we need is a specific, like this viewpoint or that trail. I mean, some of the trails here are more, I don't know how much work's being done on the trails, like, you know, say, from West Side Road to Mike's Lord, do you have that all work? Is it ready to go? You know, like, that's sure what we need, is to know that it's, can be done.
And let us refine it.
So,
That
it's
was
not ready to go.
Yeah.
I just picked that one out, I didn't mean to,
Yeah, as an example.
yeah.
Also, we don't know, really, these ones are the estimated planning costs and capital costs, but we don't know what actually was approved in this year's budget. So is that numbers you've got? Or
Yeah, I can get them. There's not really a whole lot planned for this year, to be perfectly honest.
yeah, that's what I gather, is that I'm kind of waiting for Bonnie to come back and take up her position on a full-time basis, right? Yeah.
And so with the Maggie Cummings fund, we have to, also, the municipality also has to match the funds, so it should be something that we've already planned for, or something that we can really sell.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, what have we already planned for?
I don't know.
You don't have it up there?
No, I don't think there's much. We have operational budget, and, you know, the toilet still has a budget. But I don't think there's much more. I think that the idea was that if Bonnie's not here to make the projects happen,
Yeah,
then we're
then-
not gonna plan for projects.
Yeah.
Or budget for projects.
Very good, okay. That makes sense, and that fits with what I've been gathering today and the last few days. So I will, knowing that, I will continue my communications then tomorrow, including with Bonnie about the, with Emma about the transportation plan and the off-road components, to see if there's budget there that we could match. Yeah. Because that would be trailheads, basically, it sounds like to me. Yeah. Or,
Yeah.
what do you think that means? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I'm not sure. I just wanted to say that I really agree with Virginia about the beaches, though.
Yeah,
I
I
think
just
we're
noticed that was
adding-
actually in the
We're adding a lot of trails this year. You know, with Grafton Lake coming up, and we're building this other climbing route trail. And it's difficult for us to keep up with the maintenance of trails, and we don't want to let them all go and just keep building more new ones, you know? Like, I think it will take more time to be able to get more staff if needed, or, you know.
So 2 new trails.
So I think a beach access is more manageable and more expensive, probably.
Mhm. Okay,
So
all right.
I'm just, and we're doing this Miller
Miller.
Miller's
Walkabout,
Landing
yeah.
walkabout, so.
Okay. When do you
I
need to
think
know,
that's-
Sue Ellen?
Well, the foundation board would like to know and be able to make a decision on whatever projects with an S we put in front of them. Hopefully give them a couple of choices. And their AGM is coming up on the 26th, so a week and a half from now. And we've been talking about it all the way along, but I didn't understand about the budget. I had been, from the council point of view, I'd been going, okay, we're passing this budget, but I didn't have the detail about what was actually in it.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand the details about Bonnie's position and what was being done. So here I'm hearing that this trail, this year, we'll be bringing on new trails, Grafton Lake, maybe, right, lands, and the Killarney Lake picnic area up to, what did you call it, Skid Trail?
Yeah.
Skid Trail?
Or Hikers Trail Road.
Hikers. Okay.
I'm just, I lost my thought.
Okay. And so thinking about the beach accesses, is there one that needs attention? I think we're gonna go look at them, right, at Miller's.
And
And,
the stairs at September Morn Beach need to be replaced.
Stairs out
Right.
there, what's the one out in Fairweather?
Alder Cove?
Yeah, I was just there and then just really getting worn down.
Okay. Okay, beach stairs. See, I think Maggie's funds are more for, not supposed to be operational and that kind of
Yeah.
maintenance level, but I'm looking for ideas at this point, so thank you very much.
Jerry?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about, what about from the viewpoint on Bob's Knob connecting to the Ferry Fin Trail? That's been in the works for a while, although it's, I think, on Crown land.
Yeah,
It is.
Yeah.
So we would need some kind of,
arrangement. Yeah.
to do that, but that's been in the works, even to the point of being scoped generally as to where we go.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that might be something that we could talk to the Bowen Island Conservancy about, because they did the other trails, the ones from the end of, is it Taylor Road? Thompson Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, down to Ferry Fen, and they're kind of, because it's kind of involved with the Ferry Fen project.
Yeah.
So an action item will be, unless somebody here is on the Conservancy, is I'll ask about the Conservancy. Sue Ellen to ask Bowen Island Conservancy about Connector Trail, Hoy Park Viewpoint.
Didn't they look at that before? They were talking about doing the zigzag.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yes.
Well, actually, there is a really kind of perfunctory zigzag trail, but there's a much better way. There's a natural kind of fan that would make it, it's not nearly as steep, but would go in essence to the same.
would be longer than ziggy-zaggy.
No, I think less zigzags, probably more just more
Okay.
casual S's on a more gentle slope. It's kind of a natural fan there, whereas
Right.
it's very steep there. Yeah,
So-
Everhard, I looked at that one.
Yeah,
Pretty-
I think it would be good to have can you add to my action item and inquire about a joint walkabout? Because the two of us groups went and walked it.
Now, is the Maggie Cummings Fund, is that supposed to be coupled with funds from the municipality?
The way the current terms of reference that the Bowen Island Conservancy wants, it's supposed to, which is being a bit of a barrier right now, actually, is that I'm looking for projects that already have $10,000 beside them, and we don't have any like that, right?
Right.
Except the one that's gonna cost $10,000, yeah. And,
But if, like, thinking of the connection between Bob's Knob and Quarry Park, that goes over Crown land, so I don't think the municipality would want to buck up funds for that, would they?
well,
Probably not.
they, let's see. did
Does
they-
it matter where you get the matching funds from for Maggie Cummings?
Probably not, but I'm not sure. I would have to, I'll look it up.
I guess that would be a thing to confirm.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, potentially Fitz and Bitrick could partner with that as well.
Right, I was thinking there's more partners here that could be possible. Here's the terms of reference. Da-da-da-da. The foundation has discretion in terms of how annual grants may be apportioned, and it talks about the will and that kind of thing. There's a Maggie Cummings implementation committee that I'm part of, and how it all works. Projects should be, recommendations of the committee should be related to projects, budgets, and priorities that would benefit from, yeah. I can't find the part about the funds just at the moment, but I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be matching funds. Thank you, Phil. I tell you what I'll do. I'll look at this during the meeting, and I think we should invite Bits as well. So by joint walkabout, I would include any group that wanted to be involved, and I'm going to look at this more carefully to go, where is that?
Okay, so you've got some suggestions.
Yes, thank you very much.
I'd like to move
Thank you
to
very
vote.
much, everybody, and that's good. And Carla, I may be calling you tomorrow, or the next day.
Can I just add
When day work?
Thursday.
Thursday?
Yeah, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday.
Okay.
Virginia.
Yes, I was just related to one of the action items is the idea of knowing where the old growth, if there really are areas with old growth forests that are over 250 years old on Bowen.
Yeah, lots.
Mapping those areas. That would be something that would be valuable to put money towards.
Yeah, except I
Because
think we've
I
already
think-
got it.
We do?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, you mean the,
Like,
Special
to know where the
roles.
actual trees are, rather than what the forestry industry is
Yeah,
talking
that-
about. Because the forestry industry is not really, I think we have to go to them with information saying this is what we want to preserve. And then they might preserve it, but if we don't tell them, if we can't say this is it.
oh, I see, you're talking about specific areas of trail
Of
Of
interest.
actual old growth forest. that might-
Didn't Julie
might have-
Dunster record a lot of that?
He did.
God knows where his information is, but
I can send it to you, I've got
I
it.
think we've had it on one of these
Yeah.
agendas
Yeah.
before.
Okay.
It's a huge, big report, and there's lots of data and lots of mapping. I think what we don't have is what you might call feature areas or places that of special interest that you want to take trails to, right?
Right.
That
Yes.
would be, or that would fit in with the island-wide trail system.
which we've
As
kind of
opposed-
been pecking away at.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, thank you. Okay,
It just is something I'm sure is going to be more interest to people.
mapping old
As
growth
time goes.
features. Let's call it a features inventory, yeah. Okay,
Okay, awesome.
thank you.
Let's move on. Item 6.1, staff update. Carla.
Okay, so we've got some photos attached. So these, Bob sent this to me, and honestly, I don't really remember what the conversation at last meeting, but he said that he noticed that we had talked about Seymour Park and that we didn't want anything done there, or someone, a couple people had said that, and I didn't remember hearing that, but they were thinking about putting a fence along here where the rose bushes were.
Rose bushes are
The rose
still
bushes.
They haven't
Yeah.
done that job?
No.
They're fairly minimal. Who's
Yes.
there?
Yes, they're quite, the deer eat the buds off them every year, so they haven't grown
Yeah, can't see
at
them
all
there.
in about, I don't even know how long they've been there, so. So they just wanted to do a really simple fence along there, and we thought it's quite steep along there, and
Is it a safety issue?
I think that was the thing. And the idea was to have the rose bushes there to, you know, they eventually
Deter
fill out
traffic.
and that they would deter traffic. They haven't done that. So, and that was kind of in.
So this is a budget item, so there's budget to put up a fence?
Well, I think they've just, I think it's just in the operational budget. I mean, they do some improvements as they go kind of thing.
Okay.
I
Well,
don't-
we did talk about it at, excuse me, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Okay, we did talk about this at the last meeting, I thought.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why it was brought up.
Yeah.
So I think Bob just wanted to show us that there was a good reason for wanting to put a fence there, and, you know, he's concerned about the liability. If we don't want to put one there,
Yeah.
then that's fine. He said that's fine,
Yeah.
no
Okay.
biggie, but
So he's
just
just
so
aware.
everyone is aware,
Right.
this is what it looks like right now, and.
Well, if I can speak to this a little bit, this was works that were undertaken in this park back during a previous council. And this was, this park is zoned as a passive park, same as Crippen. It's not supposed to have all this storm sewer outflow pipes and bridges and rock walls and things like this are not, they were never supposed to be there. And I don't think they ever came through an advisory committee or anyway, I don't know what they're doing there. And I just don't think, however, that being said, I don't know if there's a safety issue. There's a bridge on the very steep part that we're, the bridge is going over here. But otherwise, we have steep areas in all of our parks and beach accesses. And I'm not sure that adding fences, which you would have to maintain, would actually, I think that would be an expensive solution to a problem that isn't really a problem, you know? I mean, this is, I should point out too that more trees were removed from this park this summer. And I'm just kind of horrified that the wooded little park that used to separate a swimming beach from the development uphill and the golf course is now wide open, so wide open that you can see this sort of lawn and things like this, and I don't think it's now very attractive as a swimming beach. And I was walking around there recently, actually. I met the chair of the committee out there. We walked around the other day, and it looks like it's slumping, and I think there's going to be washouts and stuff at the bottom of this. And anyway, I'm not in favor of putting any fences there.
I personally, can I speak to it? I think it needs a real plan for, like a design for the whole park. Because right now you go there and it's a little bit, you don't even know where to leave your car. Because it's like, should I park over here or am I gonna go down? You know, it's just very ad hoc. And I think a fence is adding another ad hoc piece. And even the fence that you can see in the one picture here, that's there, that's sort of like, I don't know if that's in the park or whatever it is, but to tell you the truth, that fence is so rickety,
That is,
That
in,
it's sort
that
of-
is in the park.
because it's so rickety, it's sort of like, ooh, scary, you know?
It's full protection, I think is what that is.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyways, when you look at it, it's not like a really good, strong fence. It's
Yeah.
more like a, oh, I hope I don't lean on it and by mistake and fall through it.
So,
Anyways,
go ahead.
So it could go on and on and on in terms of adding things, but if you had a whole idea of how the park's gonna be used,
Right. So,
how it interacts with the development, all these issues I think need to be
so two
addressed.
things I'm hearing. The first is, I mean, the fence issue. I mean, if it's, Bob's not looking for a recommendation from us. He's not looking for us to
No, he
approve.
just wanted everyone to be aware because I think
Right.
it was brought up.
Okay, so, I mean, if it's a safety issue, then that's the municipality's decision, what is a liability. But I'm hearing that we should have a plan for the park and what is the intended use for the park. So, I mean, I know at one point there was a landscape plan that came around, that's where the roses came from. In my opinion, it was an inadequate plan, it wasn't very well thought out. So, perhaps a recommendation that, or perhaps we can work on a plan for the park. What is the intended use that we see for the park? Jeremy?
You know, it seems to me that there was a lot of discussion about this at the time when we were trying to mitigate the riprap issue. And to begin with, there was talk about putting in picnic tables, general accessibility, putting in an access ramp for kayakers so that they could actually walk their boats down to the water, all that stuff. And it just kind of fell by the wayside. Nothing more was done. I think there was discussion, in fact, about improving the parking there, making it more obvious and commodious, but I don't know what happened to that. It just sort of vaporized into the ether. But I know there was discussion about that. I don't know if anybody else remembers it or am I hallucinating?
Yeah, no, I remember it, yeah.
I think Seymour Bay's there's been quite a few attempts to address issues at the park. Correct.
I suggested Seymour Bay, or Seymour Park as a project that we could do with the grant money that I've been getting from the regreening grant for BC Hydro. And so this year we're doing Kate's Hill, but we could potentially do that next year. And maybe Maggie Cummings Fund might want to, participate in that, or make it more funding that way. And then, because it's next year, we can also ask for funding from them as well. So that might be something to think about. I also wanted to just say that the reason the trees were cut down this summer was because the helicopter landing pad. I think it was necessary because otherwise the helicopter wasn't going to be able to come here or something anymore. I don't remember exactly what it was, but apparently it was completely necessary. So
Is there a helicopter landing pad there?
yeah.
Who uses it?
It's night, it's if there needs to be an emergency evacuation at night.
Yeah.
Oh.
So for medical emergencies or anything
Okay.
else, it's the only place that they can land.
I'm only mentioned it, not to single out that one, but just that, that park used to have lots of trees in it, and now it's got a handful left. And how is that a way to treat a park that we're supposed to be protecting vegetation in? And how is that anyway, I like this idea of let's look at it and get a design, let's find out where the edges are, because you can't really tell what's in the park and what's not. And maybe we want to, how do you want to frame this? Maybe should Virginia and I get together, or should maybe I shouldn't take on more work.
work comes to it.
So we're getting a little far afield
Yeah.
from our agenda, so let's, for next meeting,
Yeah.
let's start thinking about what we want Seymour Bay,
What this project might be, a regreening project?
right, what we would like to see for this park. And then next meeting, we can start discussing and putting together a plan.
No, I'd just like to say, I think it's appropriate for the Maggie Cummings fund, because that's her area. I mean, we used to, the golf course used to be a meadow, and they were there, and the horses were there, and so I think that would be very appropriate.
Carla?
Oh, I agree with you is all I was saying, and I was gonna say for an action item, I'll speak with Jen to make sure that, about what kind of things can be planted, like what the limitations are. I'll figure out what the limitations are,
Good plan.
and.
Bring it to the next meeting.
Yeah, and I think that it's a good idea, so we're not, again, next year in May, saying, what about the Maggie Cummings Fund? Like, let's, you know, maybe this year, talk about what's happening next year, so we're not every year
Yes.
behind.
Yeah,
And then we have something in the budget already that we know
yeah.
we can work.
Perfect.
I think as part of the.
Hang on, I'm gonna go to chair.
So I just remember, was there a development, or a request to do in Seymour Bay was for the golf course to put a dock in there for a passenger boat? Was that denied? And
So as far as I can remember, the park doesn't encompass the whole bay. On the south side of the bay, the park ends, and there's an access for the development.
oh, so it's part of
development
the
too.
development.
Yeah, it's not part of the park,
Okay.
which actually, I'm sorry, go ahead, Phil.
Okay, I just was gonna say, clarify with Carla that we check on the constraints on the helicopter access egress to make sure that we don't, find out what the options are for the helicopter. If there are, can we put that to one side or locate it such that we do have some potential to actually make something of the park that's useful? Otherwise, it ends up being a helicopter landing pad and not a park.
Is
And
the
I mean,
pad
it's-
in the park or is it
The pad
adjacent?
is further back, it's just that it needs the wide.
Needs the
berth
flyway to get in.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
As far
So
as I know,
it's
the
up-
landing pad is up, like,
Before
closer to the
parking lot.
clubhouse.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
closer to the clubhouse, just.
So you
before
just can't
the
have
parking lot.
tall trees and.
yeah, they just need a line so they can come in,
We do a lot of shrubs still.
Yeah.
actually.
so, okay. I'm thinking maybe at this point, I might slide my, can I do that? Can I? No.
You
I
can.
can't, okay, so my 6 point, I knew I, my 7.3, my Seymour Bay property lines.
Yeah, okay, I know, I knew there was something.
So when Sue Ellen and I were down there, one of the issues that we were discussing was, we don't know where the park is anymore because there are no property pins delineating the park. I put forth a recommendation that the Parks Growth and Greenways Advisory Committee recommends to council that the park be resurveyed and property pins.
Do we need to do that right away or?
Next meeting?
Why would we wait? Is there a reason to wait?
Oh, just because it costs a lot of money. If
So
we're not
it's
doing the project.
expensive.
Yeah, it's quite,
Is it costly?
yeah, right.
But
Well,
couldn't you,
I mean, enough that
Yeah.
we
Look
don't
at the-
have very much
but
money.
couldn't you look at the original survey and just put the bins in? I
Or-
remember when we
Makes
did
And
it
we
that.
gotta
have,
locate
we
them.
have GIS, like, we
There-
can,
They're probably
You must
still
have
there if
records
they
of
have
the
put
spot
a
survey.
iron
Please, yeah.
yeah.
Right, okay, or so, I don't know how to word that then, how would we have the property pins
Relocated.
relocated?
If you can do them accurately enough with GPS, it's probably the cheapest thing, because that's like half a day, right? For somebody to go out there and respawn.
Well, like,
Reinstall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Move them around.
yeah.
You want them reinstalled.
We want.
Well, you might actually,
No,
you
no,
might
you
actually,
just
you might
find
actually
them,
find
they're
them.
there.
Yeah,
You can't move them because they're like legal kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or you have to.
Just, that's what I meant by
Have them
relocate.
identified.
Yeah.
Relocate is to actually
Find them.
find them.
Expose them. You actually use a big
Locate
magnet.
Locate.
Locate and identify. I seem to remember Wolf trying to find something.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's what they do, basically, if you have an idea where it is.
Jeremy?
Maybe as an eventual addition would be a map that actually shows, that's on a sign that shows the limits of the park. It's a very oddly shaped thing.
Yeah.
And if you don't have any other visual on it, it's this kind of amorphous, well, where is the park? And you would logically think it encompasses everything to the south, which it doesn't. But if you had some kind of a little visual map, like they have at Ferry Fen, which shows that delimits the thing, and gives you a rough idea. That's maybe downstream, but probably an important adjunct to the whole idea of people being aware, yeah, this is a park, and these are its dimensions. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Well, I've come to think of it, we've got one like that at Headwaters
On
Park.
Headwaters Park.
And I think at Quarry Park too.
yeah, well, there you go.
My point is though, I would like to be able to, when we go there, you can see the pins. You know where the park boundaries are.
Well, it sounds like Phil knows the wording for that kind of thing, so that this would be something like a motion like that Parks, Trails and Greenways Advisory Committee recommend that the park boundaries be located and marked.
I think they're probably already marked, because it's a question of whether you want to make the corner pins more visible.
That's-
So
Maybe, yeah,
Yeah,
marked, like,
just
I
mark
have,
with a flag or.
I have
certain
signs
thing.
that say park boundary.
Or even if those white stakes are just put back.
Yeah, I
That
think
show
that would be it, and
ID in
then
the park.
I like Jeremy's idea too, of actually
Yeah.
having some information so that if
The
people do
park
go,
boundary makes sense.
if people do go to visit the park, they know what they're looking at.
Yeah. And that a map showing park boundaries be posted on a sign.
I'm writing something totally different, sorry.
And that a map,
I said that a sign be erected depicting a map showing the park
well,
boundaries.
that's the same thing.
Okay.
Perfect, perfect.
And I had that, the committee recommend that council direct staff to locate and identify the survey pins surrounding, and make them more visible around Seymour Park boundaries.
Seymour Bay
Seymour Bay.
Municipal Park.
Seymour Bay Waterfront Park.
Is that what it's called, the park
That's what
plan?
it's called, yeah. That's what the sign says, the park.
Identify the Seymour Bay Waterfront Park.
There's a sign there?
There is a sign there.
What are the little eagle type signs or seals?
Oh, yeah.
That council direct staff to locate and identify the survey pins around Seymour Bay Waterfront Park boundaries and make them more visible. And then a sign be erected depicting a map showing the Seymour Bay Park boundaries.
That's fine, isn't it?
I think it sounds good. So we have a motion.
Who's moving it and seconding it? I'm trying not to do so much moving and
Can I have a
seconding.
mover? Jeremy, Phil, any more discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Awesome, thank you.
I might not have been done with my.
Sorry, we derailed you.
So,
We derailed it.
I don't really have anything else to add, just to accept the Case Hill, which we kind of touched on before. So I had asked for any plant suggestions, if you have them, and I'm still asking for those. I need to do an order by mid-June at the very latest, so probably what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna prep a plant list by the next meeting, and then,
You bring a draft, you list, that would be great.
yeah.
If
So
you could say what kind you want the plants to do, you want them to be like flowers, or you want them to be trees, or bushes?
What's their function?
Their function is to not be invasive species and make the park look nice.
That'd be low maintenance.
And be low maintenance.
And,
Well, it's, yeah, I mean,
Zero?
to me, it's zero maintenance, right? They're native species, we're looking for,
You want native,
obviously, just native species, that's it. There's
Yeah.
there's no fancy gardens here, there's no pruning, there's no nothing. So, like, we're gonna do, I think we wanted to do a little bit of a wall of trees. Like, we're gonna fix the slope up a little bit, make it just so that it's not quite so steep.
so that we can get some plants on that slope, do a little bit of a screen to the parking lot, keep a lot of parking there, but then surrounding the parking lot, just do a lot of planting and just all natural, really. I mean, we might be able to do some sort of a nice little pathway through or something like that, like a little rock pathway or,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, there's ideas, right?
Right.
But mostly just a natural, and whatever's gonna work too, right? Like, it's gonna be really sunny out there, there's deer that are gonna eat everything, it's gotta be drought resistant, we're not gonna water it.
Is it shady or
It's not.
sunny?
It's sunny, it's gonna be real sunny.
Very sunny.
Up on the top of that hill.
Not so loud.
I'd be happy to.
It's just so everywhere.
That's the point.
That's 'cause it's a native.
It's a native.
It's so
Yeah.
hard to walk through.
I have one suggestion, and that's Mahonia, the Oregon grape. And because that's the one plant that I see growing on the bare mineral slopes in Quarry Park. You know, the steep mineral slopes, and it actually gets beautifully colored. And it stays low, and it forms a beautiful non-weedy looking, neat, I think is the word,
Yeah.
well-groomed kind of patches. And so that would be my main suggestion. And you can see how it does so well in Quarry Park.
And if you'd like, I'd be happy to go over there with you and talk about. I've got the native plant book.
And this
I
is-
know quite a
this-
bit about it. You know,
She's
gardening.
a very good design person.
That would be great. I will email you, and we can, I'll email you
Yeah.
plant lists, because I'm gonna order from
Yeah.
Matt's. And then,
Right.
so you have a,
Yeah.
a list to work from, and maybe we can meet there.
Mhm.
Anybody else wanna go?
I'll go. Oh, well, I'll be away, but.
Oh.
Whenever.
Yeah, I'm gonna be way
But
there too,
I'll email you some suggestions.
touch
I'll
base.
look through it. Yeah,
Sorry,
please.
Carla, are you talking about up by the labyrinth there, or?
Yeah, exactly.
Do we need a walkabout? Do people want to go and have a look? Or like a quick meeting?
Yeah.
Right? If we're making suggestions. Or do
When
you
you,
want,
when you,
I'll email everyone.
maybe that's the best way to do it, because it's your timeline. You just say,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go up now. And if whoever wants to
Yeah.
come,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I
that would
suggest,
be a good way.
yeah.
and I suggest that, Virginia's the best person to take, because she thinks about where people will walk and how it will look, and
Yeah.
she's got that design of people's spaces being used kind of thing.
Yeah, and I've learned a lot about native plants.
Kate's on the park.
The deer-proof native plant is the one that's,
Yeah.
although Mahonia is good, and Salal, we don't eat too much.
What about Montia? Montia, it's a little flower. They used to grow where they're blasting up behind, opposite Tiernan, but it's all gone now. But it's a beautiful little trailing flower that comes out in the spring. And it doesn't,
I don't know
it's,
what I'll look at.
yeah.
But again, I know the Nats Nursery, they came and talked to the garden club.
Mhm.
And they've got the basics, like kinnikinnick, things like that.
Yeah.
Kinnikinnick might work really well. I don't know if the deer eat it.
They might. I planted a bunch at September morn. That was
Yeah.
one that I thought would do well, and it was all gone when I went back there. So
Somebody ate it.
somebody ate it. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it just died.
It's pretty hardy, it likes sand. Like
Yeah.
it'll grow on real sandy, dry area.
Okay, well, I think the best thing is to go out there and see, well, this would be probably good there.
Okay,
See
Carla,
what
do
you
you have
wanna
any
do.
more updates?
No, that's it. Thanks.
Okay. So, Council and Islands Trust update.
Okay, I'm, we'll have the How Sound Forum. That's just where all the communities from How Sound get together. And that'll be next, the Friday, that is the 26th, I think it's called. And anyway, at that one, I will learn more about, I expect to learn more about what all the storm damage was in all of Howe Sound, from those November storms that we talked about have damaged September morn from the video you showed last time, Mark, and that damaged our dock down in Snug Cove and left, what would you call them, truckloads of styrofoam everywhere. And that's something going on. So I may have some information to bring back to this committee, and I'll be presenting there about the Islands Trust Conservancy. So that's the Conservancy nature reserves that we have on Bowen, like the David Otter Nature Reserve and the Fairy Fan and that kind of thing, and what they do and the conservation plan and things that I'm going to be emailing, because a lot of them are links. And let's see, council-wise, one of the things I'm going to be doing is, well, I'll tell you about it when I do it. I think I don't have a lot to report this week. Lots of, I'm busy, but it's not necessarily Parks, Trails, and Greenways stuff.
Okay.
I think I talked about it with the Maggie things.
Well, thank you, Sylvan. And have fun at the house on forum, that's awesome. So 6.3, Ecclestone Beach Walkabout, we've already covered that. Awesome. 6.4, Headwaters Park Study Update, Claudia is not here. And 6.5, the Bits Trail Site Update.
Sure, so we had our AGM April 6th on Saturday, a couple weeks ago. We've got a couple new board members, one board member retiring, and we've got a new board member that's kind of taking over as a director of communications and sort of a person that's main goal is to promote membership in the society. So that's good, some new energy and new people on the board. Main things that happened in 2018 were the Bowen Trail Coalition partnership agreement, membership of BITS in the Federation of Mountain Clubs, BC, which helped us to get insurance. And then the initiation of our first projects, which were the navigation project and Handloggers Bridge project, which was completed in 2018 with BITRA. So right now, what we're working on is continuation of navigation work, but also a trail classification and kind of trail etiquette protocol for the Crown Land trails, recognizing more that we need some kind of protocol for how we classify the trails, especially ones that relate to multiple use. And you know, that's become a big issue of discussion in BITS and particularly BITS membership that's come up. So
when you say classification, do you mean like different degrees of difficulty?
Classification for use and multiple use in particular.
Okay.
So which types of use? Are they horse trails strictly, or are they, you know, motorized, non-motorized, and what combination? And are there areas that are not suitable for multi-use, that kind of thing? And then the protocol for etiquette on those trails that are multi-use. So that's the big one. And then obviously we've had a fair bit of liaison over the last 6 to 12 months with RCMP, because there have been a number of incidents on the mountain, and so we've been talking to them a lot about search and rescue and the fact that, you know, how they're very interested in the navigation project, and particularly in how that fits into their search and rescue activities and their call-outs. And then the main thing this year is increasing membership and communication around membership, so we can get numbers up to a critical level, up to a critical level of critical mass. And then the big new project for this year will be Handloggers Trail, just working on improvements to the quality of the trail and trying to restore the surface from where it is right now. Right now it's pretty much creek bed, and the idea is to see if we can improve improve that situation. Awesome. So, and part of that comes back again to use and how it gets used, and dealing and managing that part of it.
Cool. Thank you. And did I see on Facebook that you guys completed your navigation to the top or one of the routes?
We did another blazing event, so there's still several components to the navigation project, and it's going very slowly, but, we're kind of taking, the first step is to blaze the trails appropriately with consistent blazes. Doing the three, we've done the skid trail, the North Summit route, which was what we did last weekend, and then there's the Lower Road South Summit route, which will be done next. And then signage is gonna go in, hopefully some signage will get done this year, but I'm not confident.
Small steps.
Small steps.
I'm learning.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And I will renew my membership. Okay, good.
Awesome, that's great.
Yeah. Good to know. Okay, on to new business. 7.1, logs on beaches. Council referral. So there is, as part of the package, referral. Yeah, sorry. Page 11 to 15. So council received an email correspondence and a request for removing logs from September 9 Beach. Does anyone have any comment on removal of logs from beaches?
Deja vu. This has happened before.
Pardon me?
Well, this has happened before, she's requested this.
Yes.
I just wonder if, it seems a perennial problem here, you remove them and they're right back. I mean, you look at Alder Cove Beach, that is not a beach at high tide, it's a log dump, basically, and I just can't even imagine any way that you could effectively keep it from being that. Those little embayments just collect with this,
Right.
like logs.
It's pretty hard.
What we found at King Edward Bay is that if you do something now, it'll last until next winter. But over the winter storms, everything gets moved. Things you never thought would move will get moved.
Yeah.
So, but having some way of making a modest access to the beach from whatever the path or steps or whatever it is, so you don't just end up having a 3-foot log right in front of you after coming down a nice trail. That to me would be the doable and be sort of a maintenance thing that has to be done,
Right.
at least looked at every year. What can be done, what's feasible.
Right.
But you can't clear the whole beach but you can. You're just getting a pathway down to the lower tide areas where you can.
And it's important to note that BC Hydros is a huge project there 3 years ago, and I mean, they removed a whole bunch of logs right from that area and it's all back again. So,
Perpetual problem.
yeah. Sue Ellen?
I'm remembering that over the years, and I'm looking back like 20 years of being involved in beach committees on Bowen, that there are several times that we have recommended, as a committee, recommended to staff that they make accesses so that everybody can get down to the beach, whether they're, somebody who's injured a knee at some point and needs to, but still wants to use the beach in the summer, or whatever. And, but usually, in my experience, what has worked best has been just to create a kind of pathway, to continue the trail through the logs down to the beach. And also sometimes trying especially to leave the hand, the funny knobs sticking up so that people can use them as an aid in stepping down, almost like handrails, but like supports.
Yeah.
Typically there isn't much like that on most logs.
Sometimes there's a big root ball or there's a log sticking up or something like that. And that I know have been, that I'm just recalling, ones that were left on purpose because there was an awkward step, and rather than take out the thing that people could use for support, they left it there. And so my suggestion, and I remember this specifically at Sandy Beach, I think at one time, it was a long time ago. But anyway, the idea that, no, it must have been Bowen Bay, but just somewhere so that people can get down. But clearing the whole beach doesn't make sense. It goes out, it's gonna come back, costs a fortune, other logs will come. And but I do like the idea of where it's a barrier around this time of the year to carve a pathway through, that you can get a stroller through.
Right.
I think I was at Bowen Bay recently, and seemed to be, the paths seemed to be, there seemed to be good access relative, compared to what there had been.
I was just gonna say that the Muni regularly cuts Bowen Bay a path clearly, and it gets rearranged in the winter, and then they go back out and do it again.
Carla.
We have a different maintenance level for different beaches.
Yeah, that's what
So-
it is.
Yeah, well,
Our-
I guess that's what,
Community beaches, so Bowen Bay, Tunstall, Cape Arch Curtis, and Sandy.
Is there,
Is Cape Arch Curtis Community Beach?
Well,
Define-
sort of, kind of.
Sort of,
It's,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was recommended as one in the new parks plan,
Yeah.
because there, it has all of the amenities that would normally be associated with community.
Including the
There's a
toilet
lot
shop.
of it.
Yeah.
So,
Cool, you know it should be.
there are quite a few logs on that beach though, when you go down.
when you go down
Can
right
be
now.
hard. I don't know this today, but I've been there when you have to really
I think right now,
be,
Cape Arch Curtis is pretty good.
okay.
You know,
But
I
it
was
would
gonna
be
say
just
too,
a-
Alder Cove, I was there on last Friday, and it's not that bad either. It's like, it's really piled up, oh, you said you were just there too, I think it's really piled up by the stairs, a little, like, but it always is, but there was a big sandy area, like, we were
Mhm.
all the way up, back up to the wall there, so.
Yeah.
So
Totally
I hear,
I have a,
hang on a second. So I think that's a really good, Jeremy and Carla both made really good points that different beaches have different levels of maintenance. I mean, we can't, and this is an issue that recurs, like it keeps coming up, and
I'm not saying Class A anymore.
no,
Where does Seymour Bay,
September.
September home, rather, keep coming to us?
It's a neighborhood beach, which is what most of the beaches are, other than those
page
four.
44.
Most of the ones that are accessible beaches.
So does that get much maintenance?
We generally would make sure that the access is safe. So,
Neighborhood beaches generally assign
like
less
a trail
maintenance.
down, yeah. So a trail down to get to the beach, but, log removals. I don't think we'd have time to finish that in the summer for all of the beaches, so.
No, and that's kind of the point that I wanted to make was the reason that you treat different classes of beaches differently is that, the community beaches, those are the ones that we advertise, we want people to go to. And we can do that to all, continually clear the access to those beaches. We can't do that for all of the neighborhood beaches. There's too many of them.
Would it be helpful to have a motion?
So I've actually kind of worked something that's a bit
Okay.
wordy, but I think because this is something that does come up and occurs kind of regularly, I think and stemming from my research into the whole terms of reference thing and how important it is to have policy, and because that helps the municipality, I've actually come up with a recommendation. I don't know if it captures everything that we've talked about, but I'm just gonna read it out. It's a bit long. I'm sorry. Whereas logs on beaches serve to mitigate shoreline erosion and provides habitat for wildlife, and that the Parks Plan recommends 3.2.1, developing ecologically resilient approaches to shoreline management and developing management policies for shoreline protection, as well as 3.2.3, restoring and protecting the natural shoreline while adapting to climate-induced changes using green shores and other ecologically resilient principles. The PTGAC recommends that council direct staff to develop a policy to ensure that beach integrity is not degraded as a result of log removal for maintaining safe beach access before embarking on log removal from beaches. And as I was reading that, I realized that that doesn't address what we've just been talking about, which is access to the beaches. So maybe this isn't a great recommendation. But I think it's important to work in the fact that logs serve a purpose on beaches. Like I'm all for like access to the beach. That's all I want to do. But to go and remove all of the logs from a beach, those logs provide habitat, but they also protect against erosion. And we don't want it. Seymour Bay is a great example. It's not just rock. We get storm surges that come in and degrade the beach. So having a policy that staff could refer to and say, well, this is our policy on log removal, I think would be helpful to the municipality.
And something that we could refer people who are asking the question, why aren't you taking the logs off the beach?
Right.
If we had a policy. No, I like that.
Put it up there.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
I have one comment, which is that a lot of the logs come and go, so they're really not, some logs, you go to a beach and there'll be something there that's part of the beach, and is used as habitat. But some of these things, they just come in and out.
Yeah,
If some bug moves into it, well, that bug's not gonna be very happy in 3 months when the log
That's a good point.
goes out. So to think there's no sense of stability, like that you can't say, oh, this is the way it's going to be, it's gonna be perfect, we're gonna have this log here, that log, it just doesn't happen. So, but being able to actually walk down to the beach without possibly injuring yourself is, I think, what people really want. They don't want to move all the logs, and the logs are going to move anyways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And just as an aside, just before I get you, I did ask DG at the next meeting to provide a little kind of talk about the importance of logs on beaches in terms of shoreline erosion and habitat. So we don't have to solve this problem today. Phil?
I was just going to comment that one of the main functions is that they provide shade and, for certain habitat types. But they do that mostly in the backshore areas where you have a marsh, and backshore marsh vegetation. So certain types of beaches, permanent logs, do end up in the backshore areas where they get stranded and then they don't get remobilized. But we don't necessarily have those kind of beaches on Bowen. We have small, steep, rocky pocket beaches, and those tend to be more prone to accumulating large amounts of debris that then clogs up the beach. So I think it's worth having a look at what we have on Bowen in terms of exposures and beach classes or beach types that are more prone or less prone to that type of, and the ones that are actually, saying some of the beaches we do have capacity to have a log or two in the backshore area that does function as habitat. But some of that's captured here, but I would say that the problem with accumulation is those beaches that are prone to accumulation you're not going to easily solve that problem. Every time you remove it, they're going to come back.
They're going to come back. Yeah.
There was also a thing, the mapping project that was done by a group. Housebound? No, they did a presentation. Anyways, there are actual areas all through Howe Sound where you can park logs. And what happens when they park the logs, I think Adam Taylor talked about it, that there's like several feet up to say 10, 15 feet of basically stuff that destroys the environment below it. It's like poison piled up.
Accumulated log debris.
Yeah, but somehow it never breaks down. It's one of these things that 1,000 years later still be there. So I think the real big problem is that the logging industry doesn't clean up its own, doesn't do a good job. They go and park things somewhere, and they don't have to maintain it or take care of it. And I think they lose a lot of logs. I think that's why September Morn might get a lot of its logs, is that it's on that channel.
A lot of these come out
Collingwood.
of Fraser, really come out of Fraser.
But they've got all these parking spots all along the bay.
Yeah.
So where they're leaving logs all the time. There apparently was one at Seymour Bay, and that's what Adam Taylor talked about, is how
It was a log dump.
disastrous it is
Yeah, it was a log dump.
underneath,
Yeah.
like where you wouldn't know it. So anyway, so I think the problem really is that an industrial one some extent. Most of the logs that are on the beaches are from logging, not from trees logged down.
Right.
It's not a natural process. But anyway, so that, I don't know how you deal with that. I think that's where it all starts.
Okay, so maybe, I mean, I feel like we're trying to come up with different reasons for not really supporting large scale removal of logs. We're just trying to come up with different reasons to do it. Is that a fair assessment that we're not, okay, so,
It's not really practical to have
It's
a
not practical.
a continuous log removal process. I think that's,
right,
it's, especially, it's too expensive
and
it's too hard.
it's a financial, yep. So,
I was wondering if, because DG's going to bring a presentation to the next meeting, whether your motion might be a good idea to bring to that one?
yeah, no,
Okay.
yeah, I'm not
All
gonna
right.
table that.
And then I have another one that might help us with this, access to the beach business, and that is just that a trail-sized or stroller-sized access be cut through logs, or access to the water's edge, from the trail to the water's edge, at community beaches be maintained, something like
Yeah,
that.
that's,
Because there's only 4 community beaches.
Yeah, we already do that.
This is September
Yeah.
more.
This
But
is-
you see, we don't have that in a policy anywhere, or anything that I can refer people who ask to.
Didn't we say that?
No, it doesn't.
We maintain the access.
It says access to water.
So, Sue Ellen?
This is in the
So
classification.
just hang on a second, because we're getting off topic here. Like, we're not talking about community beaches. We're talking about, council
Neighborhood.
referred to September Warren Beach.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Specifically referred to September Warren.
I can't even remember, I probably moved it over to this.
So,
It's in the package. I see it's right here.
so I think it's, yeah, we don't support the log removal from September Warren Beach.
Yeah.
Is it that simple?
Don't you want to cut some taxes?
I feel like everyone is in agreement that an access would be acceptable. So I think that we can go back to council and say, yes, that we think log removal on a large scale is not acceptable. Cutting an access is acceptable. You know, if someone wants to request that, it's not automatically going to get done for every neighborhood beach, but if someone wants to request that, I'd say like that park staff. I don't know.
Because that's,
Well, if they have time, we'll do it, you know, like, it's,
Yeah.
and if it's safe for them to do it, then they'll do it. But you have to understand too, there's like, sometimes there's a big mess down there and it's dangerous, like there's rocks
You can,
and
sometimes you,
I think it should
Yeah.
be at operational staff's discretion,
yeah,
Yeah.
but we're happy to listen and go down and take a look and just learn, you know.
right.
So I think that, I don't know, we can say we're supportive of access.
Want to do what I have?
Yes.
That council directs staff to create access from the trail to the water on September Moore Beach at operational staff's discretion, but that large-scale removal not be conducted. It's straightforward
Yeah.
to the point.
Dude,
that's,
you're
that's,
awesome.
Yeah.
I want to have, can we use the word like timing at operational staff's discretion
No, I
regarding
think it's
timing?
it's not just timing, it's whether or not it's safe and,
Too much
Yeah.
work, like if it's a crazy
Yeah.
situation, you can't deal with it.
Sounds like we're kind of putting it back to staff.
what's
Council
that?
directs staff, but then staff can decide.
well, I
That
think
they-
it's,
Yeah,
I think it's just that
When and
we want
how.
to say,
It
yeah,
needs to
we
be
can
defined.
address this issue to a certain extent. It is recognized that that's a priority.
Yeah.
Access is a priority, so.
Yeah. I
When
mean,
they-
because and that's true. I mean, I think one of our reasons for being is to encourage people's access to nature, whether it's a beach or a trail or a park or whatever. But there are limits, and the logs at September Beach, that's part of what that beach is about.
sometimes there's 40 feet of logs 10 feet high.
Yeah.
Right?
that we can cover.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying about
Yep.
discretion.
I don't think it's exactly what council's looking for, but I think it's really what.
I think the council's looking for our frank advice.
All right.
I mean, you know, we could put in qualifiers like how wide we want the access to be and that kind of stuff, but I'm happy to leave it, and when, like in the summer only, but that's all the kind of things that's at staff's discretion, so.
Okay, do we want to hear it one more time?
Good.
That the Parks, Trails, and Greenways Advisory Committee recommend the council direct staff to create access from the trail to the water on September Morn Beach at operational staff's discretion, but that large-scale log removal not be conducted.
I wonder if you should add the word practical in relation to staff's discretion. Something about there, just that,
Where practical.
that it's not just sort of them, we don't want to do it, you know, that kind of thing, but if practical and safe, if staff's discretion, it is practical and safe to do so, something like that.
Okay. When, I like the when. Time when practical. When at operational staff discretion, it is practical and safe.
To do so.
Yeah. To do so.
Yes.
I think that's that point.
Good.
Okay, so we need,
Motion on the table.
who's moving it?
I'll move.
Okay,
Bill,
Virginia.
and second, there is Virginia. Any more discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous.
So for next agenda, we'll talk about policy.
Yeah.
Okay.
7.2, beach dedication. Carla. Bench dedication. We're off, sorry, I got beaches on the brain.
Okay, so just got a call just this week from a woman who, or sorry, the last one. She has a plaque that was on a bench that was dedicated to her deceased parent. And they had a property that it was on, but then they had to sell the property, so she still has the plaque, and she wanted to maybe put it on a bench. So she asked if she could put it on the bench for the whale trail. And I said, well, that's kind of a whale trail bench, and I wasn't personally in love with the idea, but I said, I don't mind bringing it to the Parks and Trails and to see what they say about it. And then, you know, she could in turn donate money for another bench somewhere else, say, that didn't have a plaque on it. I suggested to her, though, that she could go out and walk around at Keeper's Curtis and see if she found another spot that she would also think is suitable. And so she sent me some pictures from the area. So the lighthouse lane at the road end, you know, we have quite the large area there. So I guess on the bluff, sort of above the beach, she was hoping maybe we would do that spot. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, on either of those, I guess.
So,
Well, I'll start off, two things, we have the naming policy now, right? Which has a mention of benches and things like that.
Yes, and the mention of benches, I think, is really just in relation to if someone was paying for an amenity such as a bench, then in exchange for naming, that they would be responsible for the maintenance of said bench. And that's really all it is.
That's all it says, okay.
Yeah,
Because I personally, I have difficulty with names on benches in public spaces, and I think I've talked about this before, so I won't go into big details. But I do think we've got a good example, and because I mean, I'll just say there's the memorial garden already. There's benches through Crippen Park that have people's names on them and quotations. And there's a garden beside the school. There's really not very many places that don't have sort of names and words and branding and people's names on them. But I think people go to nature parks, parks and beaches and places to kind of have a natural experience. And however, I think we've got a bench that has a good example of where to put the label and that kind of thing, and that's the one that's up, what would you call that? Where the community center is gonna go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know the one that looks out this way? And it was donated by, oh gosh,
I was just
a
trying to.
clown. Who's
Oh, Paul Houston.
Paul Hooson for his mom, and yeah, well, he's a retired
Like
clown.
other
It's his
names.
profession.
He's the 10-minute clown.
Oh, is that what
Very
he's?
specific clown.
Oh, well, anyway, he was, anyway, it's a nice discreet little label. So one of my questions is, what is this, how big is this plaque? Yeah, because sometimes people have big things, and it kind of dominates the experience, and so I think that would be one of the questions you might want to ask.
So I'm happy to ask that question. I did want to say though, like, I think as part of the parks plan, one of the items was that we heard from a lot of people was that benches would be great, you know, we want,
Yeah, I'm not
we
saying
wanted
benches
it-
would be bad.
and I don't think we have money to put a whole bunch of benches in, so we want to improve accessibility. And I personally would rather have a bench with someone sitting on it than no bench. It's
I
kind
think
of-
it might be good to
or
have
more benches, say, you know?
like we've just done, I think it would be good to have a where do the plaques go, and how long
Sure.
does the maintenance go, and all that kind of stuff for benches. And,
Bob asked the other day because at the library, I think that the garden club is going to put some memorial benches, and he was asking about having a policy for benches and what they should look like. And so what a plaque would look like, I guess, as well.
with the library, that's interesting you mentioned that, I'm on the library board, sorry for the little back and forth here. They, I think, did just develop a policy that says how long the, like, I think it's like 10 years or something, and then you can, the bench will probably be decommissioned by then. No, I think that's in the naming
That is
policy.
in the mail.
Yeah, yeah. So some things are in the naming policy already, and my suggestion to the committee would be to use that Paul Houston's mom's bench as an example, and to set some criteria around the size and the positioning of plaques on benches.
Virginia.
I think it'd be best if you worked out where you wanted the benches to be, and then people could buy a plaque and help pay for the bench. Pay for benches that the community wanted, rather than saying I want to put a bench here. And the other thing is that I can understand that these people's concerns about wanting to continue their relationship with the island, but it might not be really the right way to do it, because usually these labels are small items and they're all the same. You know, whenever you go to a place, usually you see and so if you have this one more elaborate thing for one person, then maybe I want to put one up for my husband when he passes suddenly. And I want to really, you obviously get the little angels in the cemetery happening here. I don't know, it's sort of a person. You're putting a personal thing in a public environment, and I can completely sympathetic to why people would want to do that, but I'm not sure it's really appropriate. And I wonder if there's not somewhere else that they could put that. I don't know what the park is like, but I'm not sure in a public park is really the right place.
I think you
Christie.
do.
No, I'm just kind of thinking, they had it on their private property, right? And then they sold the property. So that's kind of, well, you've sold the property, you can't adopt a park to replace it in a way. So,
Yeah. Could the Memorial Garden do something? I don't know what this is like, but maybe they do that kind of dedications in
It's
the garden.
Crippen, right? So I'm sure I could refer them to
Yeah.
them.
I don't know if that's run by Crippen. I don't know. I've never been able to get to the bottom of who actually administers that
There is a
garden.
memorial
That's
garden.
a society.
Yeah, there is a society, I know, but people always say, it's so, I think it's so-and-so, but
Well, it
I
was
don't know if they're
just
even
back.
here anymore, and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, it's a bit loose, but maybe it's Crippen Park, but that would be a memorial place for memorials.
And something that because I'm all about policy now, it's just, it sounds like we need a policy for, because I don't have a problem with plaques on benches, doesn't really bother me, but I do think that there should be criteria for what it looks like. And there should be like a standard,
Mhm.
so.
Well, but it sounds like we maybe don't want them, though, so not really much point saying writing a
So-
policy.
I know
Well,
what we don't want is like just have people bring things for, you know, like,
Right,
you know,
just add.
can you see how like if there were like 24 families, all with their
Yes.
different kinds of plaques and this and
And
that?
that's why,
It becomes a museum exhibition and
and that's why a
Sure.
policy would be
Okay.
helpful.
public park.
I mean, and I'm not saying
Maybe I
we're
misunderstood.
we're supporting having plaques or not supporting, I'm just saying that having a policy with a stated criteria that people you could point to.
And the plan aspect, I think, is really important, because you don't want stuff going up all over the place. You have to,
And that's
you
part
have to
of
say,
the
look, this is
policy.
where we're gonna have benches in this park, and
Right.
those can be dedicated,
Yeah.
if, or not, depending on what you've got in terms of
Although I
budget.
have to
Well-
say, I don't have a problem with someone like, hey, this is a nice spot, what do you think is about this as a spot for a bench?
Yeah.
That kind of doesn't seem
It's a
too
conversation.
competitive.
As
That's
Yeah,
long
kind of
as,
what
long as it's not idiosyncratic or
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like.
yeah, so,
We've also had in municipal parks, people planting trees, and like it can be a red-leaved plum tree, for example, or some kind of flowering thing that dies or that needs extra maintenance. Quarry Park, that was allowed at one point, and I know of a couple in Crippen that I think people have just planted on their own. And we also had a problem, well, I shouldn't say a problem, but an issue comes up about those well, never mind. I don't think that really applies to parks and trails and beaches, but those little shrines where people have died, and people keep putting things in, and sometimes people do have accidents in parks, or they're, you know, anyway, but there's something about memorial materials, or whatever you want to call it, memorials, in public spaces. I think it would be good to have a policy. I think it's not that I'm against, I also think we should have benches, so I think we just need to find
How
a way.
much is it?
To install that?
That would cheaper for the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't know, which I would say between $5,000 and $8,000.
And do we have a policy for benches per se?
Like it's-
I mean, do we have standard benches?
We don't at the moment. The ones we've installed have been different in different spots. I think leaning towards those newer kind of maintenance-free ones. They're where the slats are like a
It's the recycled plastic.
The recycled plastic, yeah. But the one that we installed at the whale trail was one of those really big, chunky wooden ones that we just happened to have. I don't know
Yeah,
where
that
it
was-
came from. I just found one at the works yard.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
a time when we had a supplier, and there was a budgeted amount, and Will Hilson went ahead and bought 5 or something, yeah.
So, I don't know, I think the recycled plastic one, we had one installed at the beach at Miller's Landing. And so we would go with that,
so are you looking for anything else for us on this, or we just
but.
made it more
Sorry,
money?
I don't know, I guess, I just wanted to know what you guys thought, and if we can go ahead, or, I mean.
I don't think we can really say without seeing the plaque first, like how, I mean, that's
Is it red? Is it big?
Yeah.
Jeremy.
But it seems to me that the discussion going around the table is that in general principle, it's, the idea is, in that particular instance, is inappropriate because there's nothing, there's no defined policy about it. I mean, they could have maybe like the memorial garden, but in terms of that specific reference, it just isn't kind of the grounding, unless you want to have a memorial bench garden or something, you know, it's, Yeah.
So can I just say one more thing about it? It's just, this is the second request that I've gotten since I've worked here.
Oh, okay, so it
So-
becomes an issue.
Well, I mean, in 3 years, I've gotten 2 requests, so I feel like, and the first one, nothing ever came of it, they just asked. And so I've suggested the same spot to this person because I thought, wouldn't that be a nice spot for a bench? And so, you know, like with what you were saying, it's already in our minds that if someone calls and says, hey, we want to put up a bench, then we think of the spot where we think one might go, and then, you know, we negotiate kind of a thing, right? And that's worked so far. So, in the absence of a policy, is that gonna work? Would everyone be okay, provided the plaque is small, and provided the plaque is small, would everybody go through putting a bench out?
Would they be paying $5,000 to $8,000 to install, to put
Yeah, they
this up?
have to pay everything.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Bill?
I'd say it's okay if it fits in with some kind of standardized design that we're willing to accept as, this is what the plaques are gonna look like on municipal benches.
Right.
I don't think you wanna have random ad hoc, or you wanna set a precedent for random and ad hoc plaque design, because you get all kinds of stuff, you know,
Right.
stuff that you don't really want and in a public place. And so I think I think what we would need to do is say, this is what would be acceptable, give them dimensions and design standards to adhere to. Otherwise, you don't, you know.
So,
I think we could refer them to the Paul, my suggestion would be just to refer them to the Paul Houson's bench donation as an example, if that's our standard, you know.
So,
It's just that it's an old style bench, I think, though, so.
Oh, I wasn't talking about the
But
bench,
the-
I mean the plaque, the size and the placement
Okay.
of the plaque
Okay.
on the bench.
I think that when you order the bench, they also like, we could look at a couple, just in a catalog or something, but they often make the plaque with them, so that they match the bench, and then you just give them, tell them what it says.
so we should give them guidance on that, I think. Or, you know, the municipality should give them guidance.
Sure.
I just thought, we have the one president up there already,
Sure.
and it's discreet, and
Yeah.
it's something that I think could be replicated, or close to it from your catalog. You know, something similar, but if that was a standard.
So the answer is yes, once that we know what the standard is.
Well, I
And
think,
if the Paul Houston thing is an acceptable standard, then, yeah.
So do we
And also what
need
the
to have-
plaque is like, because I think that's a
Right.
real problem, we have too little information, really. So, you know, you can,
Do they have a plaque?
But-
Or-
They have one, but
But that's what we're saying is not the plaque, because we want to use a standard thing.
so we want them to get a new plaque,
Yeah.
is what we're suggesting.
it comes with the bench, so I think that would be.
Yeah, okay.
And
it comes with a new kind of bench.
with a new kind of bench, yeah, so I think that she'd probably be okay with that, I'm guessing,
And
if
what-
we decided that we had a standard.
What's it like,
Yeah.
What's it like?
I
A new
don't-
kind of
the
bench
one
and a
that comes
plaque
on
on
the
it.
bench?
Is it like the Paul Houston one?
It depends on what bench.
Okay, so you're gonna bring it to the next meeting? Are you gonna circulate it by email?
Definitions.
Yeah, I can do that. I get to pick then?
Well, we have no
Okay,
way
okay.
to.
No, I
now-
think you should,
So-
I'll figure something out,
I-
sure.
I just-
I will,
I don't
I'll
know how
bring
we
some
can.
examples to the next meeting.
Okay, so,
Okay,
Yeah.
because I'm going, I don't know how we can make a decision.
Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
that's what we do for next meeting. Or do you want, is she in a rush, or can we do this at the next meeting, or? Okay, so the next meeting, we're gonna decide on a park bench then?
So have a look at benches during the month.
You know, Carla, could you send us a couple of locations where the new style bench is? And then I'm gonna go try and find Paul Houston's bench,
Yeah.
but maybe where there is an actual new
The,
style one?
Miller's Landing.
Miller's Landing,
Beach.
okay. Beach, okay,
So when you go down the trail to the beach, it's on the left-hand side, that's the only one I really know of.
sure.
Actually, I think the ones that are outside the library, so not the ones against the library, but across, I think those are the same as
Oh,
well.
the ones that, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, not, I know they're not They're definitely not
Beautiful,
beautiful,
beautiful.
but their maintenance is free.
They look as if they're mountains.
Well, that's just what my concern, so to speak.
Industrial.
Yeah,
Uggies and.
But
never
thank you
have
for
to touch
bringing
it.
the idea, because we do need benches. We've been talking
Yeah.
about them for ages, even way back like 20 years ago, because we had did the age-friendly report or whatever that was called.
Oh, yeah.
About 3 years ago, Bonnie started on, but then the plan took
Yeah, there may
precedence.
be part
But
of
we
the
were
draft
talking
process.
about coming up with a bench policy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it didn't really get
Okay,
anywhere.
can I, not interrupt, I'm just gonna, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Swellen, second, Christine, all in favor?
Thank
Any
you.
opposed? Thanks very much, everyone, I appreciate you going over time.
Did you do everything?
Now, continue the talk.